Hello, I'm Alexis from BSC Designer. In this video, we're going to review another interesting case of digital transformation, of moving something that a client had in spreadsheets to our platform. I think it will be useful for many of our potential clients and for those of you who consider moving from spreadsheets to specialized software to automate your internal controls or your strategic planning process. And this case is particularly interesting for me because I find it's really elegant how it was implemented. So here is an example inspired by one of the client's scorecards. And here we have two pages. On the first page, there is a list of strategic objectives and metrics that quantify them. For each metric, there is a type defined as increase for metrics like customer retention and decrease for metrics like cost per product or average completion time. So these are pretty technical things that we see in many scorecards. Then there are plans for the 5 years, and for each of these years, the actual and target were defined. So targets were specified for 5 years, and actuals only for the current year. The part that I like more is that the initiatives, the second page, were separated from the main strategy. That's a really elegant solution to underline that one thing is our strategic objectives and our metrics that quantify the degree to what those objectives are achieved. And another thing is our operational side, how we're supposed to achieve those objectives. And here we have the same strategic objectives, G1, G2, and we have initiatives that help to achieve these objectives. I find this approach really elegant to split these two ideas. Now, for these objectives, there was some monthly tracking according to the progress of their execution. Yeah, so it was a progress reported monthly. That's fine, but why moving from spreadsheets in this case? Well, because of this approach has certain limits. For example, one of the challenges that client faced was that while these targets were annual, they would prefer to monitor, to track these metrics quarterly or monthly. And is it possible to do here in spreadsheets? Absolutely, but you need to maintain all this. You need to create a structure for this, and for just few objectives it's possible, but when you have a large structure it becomes too complex. And the same thing happened here. The level of decomposition of these initiatives is they're on a very high level of decomposition. So like product and service enhancement initiative, it's understandable, but we need to decompose it more. We need to split it into more specific actions, more specific initiatives. So right now these initiatives are quite strategic. They're good for executive dashboard, but they are not connected to real operations. So that's a challenge. Again, is it possible to add sub-levels in spreadsheets? Yes, it's possible, but who will maintain all this? And in this case, the spreadsheet would become too complex. So let's see how we move this into our software and how we help the client. Of course, I will use AI to help me with this. And when doing so, I will just copy and paste my structure. One thing that we discussed with client, the list of their objectives, it was quite long. And there were no division into the perspectives. So one option is just remove all the perspectives that we have in default template and import these objectives as they are now. Or another option is to take advantage of the perspectives we have, hopefully following also the cause and effect logic between these perspectives. So let's ask AI to import this data. I will use the default prompt for importing. The only thing that I will clarify here that make sure that indicators are updated monthly. That's one thing, and another I will add to the end. Here is my data. So we start this, and let's give AI time to implement this. Okay, so AI finished the execution. I see a long list of the actions that we need to approve. So I will just click execute all, and we'll switch here to see how it's actually creating the scorecard I asked for. What I see here is that it uploaded the data to these perspectives, to customer and internal perspective. I see these G1 and G2 objectives, and I see this customer satisfaction score. I also see that this, as I asked the platform to make these indicators to be updated monthly, they are configured as a monthly update. And I also see the targets for the annual periods that we had in the platform, in the spreadsheet, and also the current. I see it here. It was 94 to 2026. I see it was recorded for the end of 2026. Probably it's not what we wanted from this Excel spreadsheet. Probably we can just ask AI to update this and put it into the July, for example, but that's acceptable. What else? Let's control that this type of indicators was reflected correctly. So to do this, I go to the performance tab, and I see that these two are maximizing. That's what is increase, corresponds to increase. And these two were automatically recognized by AI as minimizing. So that's good. What else? For configuration of these metrics, let's switch this view to a different profile, and I will also modify it to visualize measurement units, so I don't need to switch to the tab. Yeah, I see the measurement units for the these metrics now, and I see that AI automatically assigned the proper measurement units here and here. Probably this one, cost per product, is not really good, so I will change it to dollar, not to unit. This one, time measured in hours, it's okay, and this in percentage, perfectly fine, according to my understanding of this. The good thing that we have now is that we can track these indicators monthly. So instead of having here just one annual data, we can actually track it month by month. For example, for customer retention, let's put here some data so that you can see what I'm talking about. So this data I have for 2026, and that's our target for 2026. That's more flexible than having data here, because here I have just one current number for 2026. In the platform, I can have a combination of different numbers. I can have this monthly tracking, and if needed, I can have an aggregated value to the end of the year, which will be this value Y2C. That's aggregated value for this whole period. Aggregated how? I check it here. Aggregated as average. So that's gives me more flexibility. If needed, I look at this final figure, Y2C, and if needed, I just look into the specific data for monthly periods. That's a good thing. Let's continue importing data. Now we have this second tab, And again, I will just try copy and paste this. And again, I will ask AI to import data using the same prompt. Here is my data. And let's give AI time to implement this as well. Okay, I see the indicators, the initiative themselves imported in the platform, but I don't see the data imported. So I will ask specifically to import the data for the data as well. Let's see why it was not working. The good thing that I have these initiatives here. And while the AI is doing its job, let's review what we have achieved so far. So the elegant part that I liked here, this division between the metrics that quantify these objectives and the actions, that's a positive side. But the negative side is that in spreadsheets, we cannot just put it on one page. We always have to switch between these. We always have to duplicate data. We say, okay, this one corresponds to this. So I go here and this is measured by this. It's disconnected a little bit. To implement this idea in the software, of course, it looks more coherent. It looks more robust. In this case, I see the objective, I see the metrics, and I see the initiatives. So let's continue with importing data. So now AI agrees that it can import the data. Okay, let's just import it here. And I see it filling in data, filling this indicator with data. Let's have a look, for example, for this one. The data was filled in for May 2026. And I see this data present here. And I will activate one option so that the platform use inherited data. It will be easier to demonstrate one of the ideas I wanted to show. Again, getting back to this division between the metrics that quantify the output of these objectives and these initiatives that also related to these objectives. And for each of these initiatives, we have this progress data. So my question to the client, my question to you is how this supposed to impact the execution of this objective in some way. We agreed that we quantified the result of achieving this objective with just these two metrics. So why we have this and why we're calculating all this progress data? That's a logic that a typical spreadsheet fails to implement because there is different types of indicators. So right now, what the platform does, it uses the progress of all these items and calculates the progress of this objective for me. That's not the logic I want to have. The logic I want to have is that the performance of this objective of G1 is determined by the performance of these metrics, the login metrics. And these initiatives, I also want to track them. I also want to track the execution of these initiatives, but they will not impact the login performance of this G1 objective. How to reflect this? I go to Context tab and I change this to leading. You see this small green rectangle appears. Again, I don't want to change it for all initiatives manually, so I will ask AI, change the type of item of initiatives from logging to leading, and I will give it a time to execute it. Once we have it, let's wait until AI finish it. I see that it just suggests changing type to leading, so I will just approve it. And I see all the initiatives are now these leading indicators. The most important impact on the scorecard. After this change, I see that this progress, 86%, is calculated only using these two metrics. We did it by changing the type of these initiatives to leading. And The good thing that this final progress is just calculated by weighted average of these two metrics. I can confirm this. I go here, I see weighted average. That's how this progress is calculated. What I can do even better, again, it's difficult to do in spreadsheet. It would complicate the structure a lot, but in specialized software you can do it. You can say that, for example, customer satisfaction score is important, but the most important one is actually if customers stay with us. So the customer retention rate is important. So I will change the weight for this, and you will see how the progress of G1 will change as well. So now it's 86, and I will put here the weight, the higher weight. The overall progress dropped because we have taken the progress of this metric with a higher weight. It's weight 80%, and this is just 20%. That's the logic that I can easily implement in the platform, and unfortunately it's not that easy to implement in spreadsheets. To finalize this transition, one of the requests of the customers was, okay, we have here some high-level initiatives, but we need to drill down. We need to add certain milestones. We need to add certain sub-goals here. How we do it in Excel is difficult. In the platform, you do it quite organically. You just pick it and you just start adding more items. You can call them sub-goal or sub-initiative. And you're not limited in the number of levels. So if needed, I can go more into the more levels, and all of these items, they can have their own data here. They can generate their performance that will contribute to the overall performance of this initiative, and ultimately it will be translated to the objective. Another thing that we have here out of the box is this visual map. So it was created automatically. I see, for example, for G2 or for G1, I can close this if I don't want to see it. I see all my objectives, G2, G1. I see the login metrics and my overall login progress, which is 79 in this case. That's what we observe in this column. And I also see the leading progress, which is the weighted average of all my initiatives combined. The same here. We have 4 initiatives, and this 23.75 is how they are performing on average. So by increasing this, we'll increase this. So this visual picture, we have it out of box. So we did this transition. We move this structure, and we retain this elegant division between the metrics and the initiatives. That by itself is already a big step for clients, especially if the need is to maintain a quite complex structure of objectives. What else? What else we have here out of the box in specialized platform? We have access rights. So I can decide who has access to this specific branch or to this specific scorecard. I can connect this scorecard to other scorecards I have. I can do it by data or by context. Out of the box, I have audit trail, which is specific for this item, where I can just view the history of changes related to this item, or I can view a complex audit trail for all my items. I can do it as well. What else? Now we are more operational here. So when we'll start working on this, eventually we'll face certain problems. In August, for example, we can face certain problem. Not just update the performance, we can comment on it. We can say that's the reason of something. We can discuss certain challenges, certain rationale. We can upload here documents, evidence, and make sure that all these will be reflected together with the comments and documents we have here. So this transition is basically making the strategic plan that you have in spreadsheet more visible, more understandable by all key stakeholders. It's ready for reports. You have many report profiles, and it's ready for accepting the operational part as well, to doing tracking more regularly, monthly, and gathering the comments, the ideas of your team, and eventually implementing this learning loop. That's all that I wanted to show you in this video. I hope you like this practical video, practical tutorials, and feel free to get back to us with your specific scorecard, with your specific spreadsheet. Probably we can also help you to transition to a specialized strategic planning platform. Thank you.